Hello guys, welcome back. My name's Nathan and today is finally the day for the 2020 post-draft NHL prospect pool rankings. Now we're past the 2020 draft and most of the free agent frenzy, so I finally had time to sit down, go through every single prospect pool after the 2020 draft and rank them from 31 down to 1, and that's exactly what's going to happen right now in today's video. So, where do I see your favorite team in my prospect pool rankings, and who do I see as the best prospect pools, the worst prospect pools, and everything in between? Watch till the end for all my picks and all my rankings, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos, more prospect videos just like this one. Now before I get this ranking started, of course, this is just my opinion, and also I don't really think there's only really a couple of prospect pools I would say are bad in the NHL. For the most part, if I have your team at like 24 or something, it doesn't mean your prospect pool is bad, it just means it's not maybe as good as some of the other teams that have drafted better or have had higher spots in the draft. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I don't hate your team, it's just my rankings, and I did put a lot of thought into this. I put some heavy work into it, so hopefully you end up enjoying. But we're gonna waste no more time getting into number 31, from 31 down to number 1. And starting us out today is the Pittsburgh Penguins. They come in at number 31, and I like some of the prospects on that team. And even though they're in last place, I do think they have some good prospects coming up. I really do like Sammy Poulin, very creative, great two-way winger who I think could be a middle six guy. Nathan Legare, great goal scorer too. On the defense side, there's really not too much at the moment besides Pierre Olivier Joseph, and they do have a few goalie prospects who I like. Joel Lundkvist, who they got in this 2020 draft, is not too bad either. But Pittsburgh just does not have that many picks, especially over the past couple seasons, and that's kind of destroyed their prospect pool a little bit. Even though it is 31, there is still some good prospects on that team though. Then going on to number 30, I have the Boston Bruins, and this is another team that's kind of been dampered by the fact that they haven't had many first round picks lately, and just high-end picks in general. And also in the picks they have made, especially this past year, not the greatest, but there are some great players still. Mainly Jack Studnicka, who's having a great AHL campaign over these last couple of seasons, really looking like potentially a top 6 forward of the future. You got some other great prospects there like Oscar Steen, and on the defense you got Bakanainen, who I still think will be decent. Some good goalie prospects too in Vladar and Swayman, but it's nothing too fantastic. Besides Jack Studnicka, there's nothing that really pops out at you. Then going on to the Columbus Blue Jackets at number 29, and this is another team that, again, has not had that many picks, and this placement kind of comes from the 2019 draft where they didn't even have a pick until the 4th round, so it's not really their fault too much, but I do think there is some work to be done. You got some solid guys like Foodie, guys like Texier. Unfortunately, Bemstrom has graduated in my opinion. Most of the prospect graduates I have over 50 games, at least for skaters. In terms of Chinnikov, I think he's a great goal scorer, but definitely not worth that 21st pick. And they got some good goalie prospects like Vivek Lennon and Tarasov, but it's nothing too fantastic either. And even though they're at number 29, it's still not bad, just not as good as some other teams in this list. Then going on to number 28, I had the St. Louis Blues. And honestly, the Blues prospect pool is not that bad. They got Klim Kostin mostly leading that forward group, and some other solid guys like Jake Neighbors. They got Perunovich, who just won the NCAA Best Player title. I'm not sure what his ceiling will be, but I definitely think he's an NHL player. And they got Joel Hofer as a goaltender, who I think will be an NHL goaltender too. So not bad in terms of St. Louis. They've obviously not had the greatest draft positions, but still doing pretty well with what they have to work with. Next up, going to number 27, I have the Arizona Coyotes. Now, this was one of the most polarizing prospect pools for me because their best player at each position is very good. In terms of forward, their best is Hayton. In terms of defense, Soderstrom, and goaltending, Prosvetov, who I think is super underrated. But besides that, there's really not too much. I do like Jan Jenik a lot, and Vasili also is a super underrated prospect too. And I do like Mitchell Miller as a defenseman, as a player. Then going on to the Washington Capitals at 26, honestly, this again was another polarizing one because you got the two top prospects in McMichael and Lapierre, and that is fantastic. But I think Ilya Samsonov is already a graduate, and I don't have him on this prospect pool. If I did, they would probably be higher. They got some other great prospects, I think, like Protas. They got Magnuson in the last draft super late in the round, so I like that too. But nothing that's absolutely insane. And Alexis is solid on the defense, but it's nothing that absolutely pops to your mind. But I still think Lapierre and Connor McMichael are two wonderful prospects prospects to have. Then going on to number 25, I have the Stanley Cup champions Tampa Bay Lightning. And Tampa's had this prospect pool of just a bunch of guys that are very solid for years now. They really don't have that superstar prospect, and you really wouldn't expect it since the picks that they've had, at least recently. But they still have some great prospects on that pool, and I'm especially really impressed with the goaltending prospects they have. I really love Anyafelt as a goaltender, great Swede, and Miftakov also really good pick for them in this past draft. So although it's nothing too major, it's still pretty solid overall, and the depth of that prospect pool is something to behold. Then going on to number 24, I have the Calgary Flames, and the Flames prospect pool was definitely upgraded after this 2020 draft, getting Connor Zary and also Jeremy Poirier. It's still nothing absolutely insane, but they have some great prospects on them still, like Valimaki on that defense, and in goaltending, Dustin Wolf, who I love a lot. Even though he is small, I think he is going to pack a punch in the NHL level. We'll see what happens, but Calgary finds themselves at 24. Then going on to 23, I have my favorite team in the NHL, the Dallas Stars, and this was a polarizing one for me because I could see them higher, lower, but that forward group is awesome. Bork, Robertson, Damani. The list goes on. I think Aksenyak, who they got in this draft, Strange, who they got in this draft, are pretty fun. Defensively, Thomas Harley, who I think is one of the better prospects in the NHL, and Jake Unger in goal. I think it's a pretty well-rounded prospect group, and as a Stars fan, I'm pretty happy, especially with how they've drafted in the last couple of seasons. Then going on to 22, I have the New York Islanders, and this again was a really interesting one because they, I don't think, had a pick until the 4th round this year. I don't think they did all that amazingly, but they still have some good prospects in their group. I do still have Ilya Sorokin on that prospect pool. He hasn't played an NHL game yet, so I thought might as well. He's probably, at least besides Askarov, probably the best goaltending prospect in the NHL. But you got Wallstrom, Soderstrom, or Holmstrom, and some solid guys on the decor like Dobson and Sebastian Aho and Bodie Wild, who I think are decent. It's nothing that's going to put them into the top 20, but definitely some good guys all around. Then going on to 21, I have the Nashville Predators, and this is another interesting prospect pool. They got Askarov in this past draft, which I really do like for that team. The best goaltending prospect you'd have to think in the NHL right now, and I do think so. In terms of their offensive core, they do have quite a few weapons. Tomasino's looking dangerous. Tolvanen, we'll see what happens there, but still, they do have some good firepower, and I think overall that Preds D-core and that Preds prospect pool is pretty underrated. Then going on to number 20, this one might ruffle a few feathers of this certain fan base, but to me it has some great star power, but I feel like they just have not done the greatest job of drafting over the past couple seasons, that being the Buffalo Sabres. I mean, they've nailed the picks that they have had besides Jack Quinn. They should have picked Marco Rossi, but you have Dylan Cozens, you have Jack Quinn, and I do like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen a lot. But besides that, since 2018, I would say, Buffalo's been rather poor in terms of drafting. I mean, I look at a guy like Mattias Samuelsson. There were so many guys after that are looking like potential great NHL players, and Samuelsson might not even make the NHL, and I wasn't even a fan of that pick to begin with. You got Ryan Johnson in the last draft, who I think will be decent, but nothing too amazing either. I'm not sure really what Buffalo's strategy is, but for me, at least prospect pool-wise, it ain't working too well. Then going on to 19, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. They are a team that's a little bit polarizing. Of course, after this past season, they didn't really get the best draft pick, but they got Forrester. In terms of the forwards, Frost, Forrester, I'm forgetting a couple of guys I know, but they have quite a few different other guys, or Bobby Brink. I was forgetting of Bobby Brink. He's also very good. On the defense, we got guys like Cam York, Emil Andre, who I think are very solid. In goal, there's nothing too amazing that comes to mind right now. Actually, I can just look. Why am I not looking? Oh yeah, Samuel Ersson. Okay. Pretty solid overall. 19, I think, is a pretty good place for that. And now, just outside the top 15, coming out at number 18, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Vegas was a super hard one to pinpoint, because on the forwards, you got Cody Glass, you got Krebs, you got Dorofiev, you got Elvenes, some amazing forward prospects. On defense, you got Cormier, who they got in this last draft, Nick Hague, who I think are pretty solid. In goal, I mean, there's nothing too amazing besides Isaiah Seville, but he's solid too. So I think the star power in Vegas' system uses it quite well. Again, Cody Glass is a guy who I still think can become a top 6, maybe in first line forward. Krebs is going to be awesome. Dorofiev is going to be awesome. So in terms of fun, awesome prospects to watch, Vegas has a lot of those. So I'm a pretty big fan. Then going on to 17, and this might be one of the biggest risers of my prospect pool rankings. I think this was a team that I had in my bottom 5 last year. They come in at number 17. 14, that being the San Jose Sharks. And I have been super impressed with the Sharks drafting over the past couple of seasons especially. But this past season, even though they really didn't go for need, it doesn't really matter because you go for some of the best players available, and San Jose got themselves some good prospects. In terms of forwards, you got Wiesblatt, you got Chmielewski. In just the last draft, you got Robbins, I'm forgetting some guys, Bordelot. The list goes on. Honestly, besides like LA, there's not too many teams that have a better forward prospect core right now than the San Jose Sharks. So I've been pretty impressed, and a lot of those guys I think will at least become middle six players in the NHL. Then going on to number 16, this might be a little bit low for some people, but I think their draft was so-so, that being the Chicago Blackhawks. Now I do like the Lukas Reichel pick a lot. In terms of forwards, you got Lukas Reichel, obviously. But you got guys like Kirby Dach, who did graduate, of course, already, so I'm not really sure where to put them. On defense, though, they definitely have one of the better prospect cores in the NHL. We have Boqvist, with Bodine, with Ian Mitchell. So not looking too bad at all. Now getting us inside the top 15, and at number 15, I have the Edmonton Oilers. Now the Oilers kind of had an interesting draft because they had their first round pick in Holloway, and then they didn't even go until the 4th round. But overall, I did like what the Oilers did, and they do have a pretty solid prospect pool. I don't think their forward group is amazing, but you got Holloway, you got Tullio, Savoy, Lavoie, who they got in the last draft. So not too bad overall. In the defense, where the prospect pool does make its money, you got Bouchard, you got Samorukov, Broberg, who are solid. And in the goaltending side of things, you got a couple of solid goaltending in Rodrigue. So I don't think it's too bad. I don't know if I could put them any higher, but I think top 15 makes a lot of sense for them right now. Then going on to number 14, this is another pretty big riser, that being the Winnipeg Jets. Now, getting Cole Perfetti will automatically make your prospect pool better, but getting him at number 10 does it quite well too. Obviously, Perfetti leads that group, but in terms of forwards, you got Vesalainen on that team as well, who are quite solid. In terms of the defense, you got Heinola, you got Sandberg, some other guys that I'm forgetting to mention right now. I don't even know why, but I think Winnipeg's prospect pool, obviously Perfetti helps a lot with that, but I think they had a great draft. Also, they got Anton Johannesson, who I forgot about. I think it was in the 6th round or something, which was an absolutely nasty pick. I like what Winnipeg's doing so far, and again, they don't have the biggest picks in the world, but Perfetti at 10, who the heck cares what else you do? That's a steal, guaranteed. Then going on to number 13, I have the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Anaheim was another one that I just wasn't really sure where to pinpoint because I think they have some amazing prospects, but I don't think they've been in full rebuild mode enough to really cultivate as many prospects as they could get. Obviously, when it comes to the forward group, you got Zegras, you got Perreault, Tracy, some amazing forwards there, especially Zegras, who I think is going to be a first-line player. On defense, they get the number 1 guy, potentially I think he's going to be a first-pairing guy in Jamie Drysdale that they badly needed, but you also got Josh Mahura there and Brendan Gooley. Number 12, I have the Florida Panthers. Now, this is another team that forward-wise is absolutely stacked. Anton Lundell, Heponiemi, Bjorkstrom, Denisenko, Tippett, some other guys I'm forgetting right now. In terms of defense, there's nothing too major, but they got Michael Benning, Kolyachonok, who are not too bad. And, of course, with goaltending, they got Spencer Knight, who is a top 5 goalie prospect at the very least. So I do like what the Florida Panthers are doing, and especially that 2020 draft. It was absolutely nasty. They also got sorted, I think, in like the 4th round, 3rd round, something like that. So not too bad either. Then going on to number 11, I have the Vancouver Canucks. Now the Canucks still find themselves in the top 15, even with a lot of transition in that prospect core. And it is actually very impressive to lose Quinn Hughes and still be in the top 15, but the Canucks have done it and done it well. Podkolzin, Hoglander on that forward group make a lot of that. On the defense, you got still some solid guys like Ulevi, Jack Rathburn, who's looking very good. You got Jet Wu, you got Rafferty as well. You also got, who am I forgetting? Juvonen, Tony Juvonen, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. On the goaltending side of things, you got DiPietro as well. Not too bad overall. So I do like what Vancouver's building still a decent prospect pool. Maybe not as good as it used to be when guys like Elias Pettersson were on it, but I think it definitely gets the job done. Then going on to number 10, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Leafs would definitely not be at this spot if it weren't for the amazingness that they were able to pull off in the 2020 draft. Amirov, Metnin, Hervinen, Topi Nemula, Dmitriev, Chinnikov, the list goes on. Their draft was one of the best in 2020, and I think that definitely helped them. On top of a pretty decent prospect pool of Robertson, Liljegren, Sandin. In terms of goaltending, Miftanov, Hall, Scott, who could maybe all be NHL goaltenders. We'll see what happens there, but I do like the Leafs prospect pool a lot more after 2020, and it looks pretty sweet right now. Then going on to number 9, I have the Colorado Avalanche, and it's not too surprising that they're in the top 10. They have some amazing star power. Newhook, Byram, Timmins, Justin Barron on that defense now, and I have other guys like Kott, Bowers, who is looking a lot better over these past couple of seasons, and Justus Annunen, who is one of the better goaltending prospects in the NHL. So I do like a lot what Colorado's been able to do, and even over the past couple of seasons, obviously that Sens pick helped a lot with Byram, but they've done a pretty decent job in terms of drafting where they've been at, and I do like that prospect pool quite a bit. Not too bad with a team that already is pretty stacked. And now on to the top 8, and we're going to start out now with the New Jersey Devils. And I like the Devils prospect pool a lot. It features some good prospects, starness, but also a lot of depth players as well, who I think will be NHL contributors. Now, of course, the main guys, Alexander Holtz, Ty Smith, Dawson Mercer, great pool there, I think, but you got a lot of other forwards who I think are going to do a very good job on that team, like Monahan. I should just look up my notes on New Jersey, because I could just list off the amount of players. Thompson, Merkley, Metzev, Pitlick, Gritsik, Bumgarner, defensively, Smith, Hall, Walsh, McCarthy, Sandyuk, Akatyuk, Shakir, Makhmudulin, Misyol, Vukojevic, and in goaltending, Nico Daws. So overall, not too bad for the New Jersey Devils. Then going on to number 7, this is another pool that has risen up the ranks, honestly more than San Jose, that being the Minnesota Wild. People do not realize the prospect pool that the Minnesota Wild are looking at. I gotta give them credit. Let me scroll down to them, because it's just the amount of prospects they have, especially after 2020. It's a home run, dude. Looking at the forward, they got Kirill, Kaprizov, I think the best prospect in the NHL besides Alexis Lafreniere, Marco Rossi at number 9, Kuzinov, Boldy, Beckman, Kovanov, Novak, Firstov, Dewar. Defensively, it's a lot better after 2022. Ryan O'Rourke going with Caden Addison, Warren, Johansson, Hunt, not too bad either. And in goaltending, Kakinen and Hunter Jones, 2 guys who I could see as NHL goaltenders. So the Minnesota Wild are doing quite well for themselves, but that forward group, that's going to bring some good star power that Minnesota's been missing. Then going on to number 6. Yes, number 6. And the Detroit Red Wings. Now, Detroit had themselves a pretty solid 2020 draft all around. Forward group is looking like Raymond, Philip Zadina. They got Veleno. They got a lot of other prospects as well who I think will be NHL contributors. On the defense side of things, you got obviously Moritz Seider, who's one of the best D-man prospects in the NHL. William Wallander, Big Isaac. I'm definitely forgetting about a couple of players, but they look quite good. Goaltending is really the only big weakness. I think Philip Larson could be in the NHL, but it will take a lot of time, and I'm not sure if he'll be an actual NHL starter. So I think if they can get a big-time goaltending prospect, then this prospect pool could be even higher, but so far for Detroit, not too bad. Then going on to number 5 in the Montreal Canadiens, and Montreal still somehow finds themselves in the top 5, and for good reason. I mean, the 2020 draft was kind of polarizing for me, but they still come ahead with some pretty great prospects. Forward-wise, obviously, Cole Caufield leads that group. You got Paling still on that side of things, Yelnan, and some decent other guys too. Defensively, though, is where Montreal is still super strong. Norlinder, Gooley, you obviously got Brook. You got so many guys on the goaltending side of things. You got Primu as well. So overall, I do like Montreal's prospect pool a lot, and it's probably one of the best balanced prospect pools as well. So for Habs fans, looking forward to that. Then going on to number 4, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, if you're talking about balance, holy freaking crap. I think Carolina is one of the winners of back-to-back drafts. They were one of the winners in 2019 and one of the winners in 2020. Again, I got to scroll down to my notes to give them justice because it's insane. On the forward group, Seth Jarvis, Suzuki, Gunler, Reese, Niebeck, Passion, Pustula, Kokkonen, Bach, Drury, Geeky, Ponomarev. All those guys I see as NHL forwards. Defensively, Jake Bean, Honka, Keen, Fensore, Nikishin. Not as impressive, but still pretty good. And they got Kachitabu they got in the second round of the last year's draft, which is pretty decent, by the way. But yeah, that forward group, prospect pool-wise, is absolutely crazy. It's going to do some absolute damage. And you have Seth Jarvis at number 13 anyways. I mean, But they could just pick Seth Jarvis and be one of the winners of this draft at number 13. And they have all the other prospects too. So I like what Carolina's doing, and they already have such a great team, man. So many good young players are going to be coming up on that team shortly. Then going on to number 3, I have, actually, you know what? We'll preview the top 3. We got New York, the Kings, and the Sens as the final top 3 and the final 3 teams available. Coming in at number 3, I have the New York Rangers. Now, to lose Kakko, Adam Fox, and Igor Shesterkin in your prospect pool and still find yourself at number 3, not a bad job by the New York Rangers draft team, and they've done a pretty decent job over these past couple of seasons. In terms of forwards, Lafreniere, Kaprizov, Puccinetti, Barron, Gauthier, Berard, Verling, Henriksen, Alton, Cooley. On the defense side of things, you got Lundkvist, who I think could be one of the best young defensemen in the NHL. Andre Miller, Brain Schneider, Zach Jones, Timo Rianinen, Robertson, who's looking quite decent. On to the goaltending, you have Joseph Woll, and you got Lindblom. 2 guys who could be NHL goaltenders, but that's not really where the prospect pool value comes. It's in that solid forward group. It's in that amazing defense group as well. That New York really looks good. They might not be this might be the final time they're this high in their prospect pool, but for Rangers fans, enjoy it while it lasts, because that prospect pool, that's fun right there. Then going on to our final 2 teams, the Sens and the LA Kings. Put your predictions down in the comments if you will. But coming in at number 2, drumroll please, I have the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators had themselves a decent 2020 draft, and although I think there's more value to be had there, they still come away with one of the best prospect pools in the NHL. In terms of forwards, Stutzle, Norris, Pinto, Baverson, Fermenton, Yarventi, Logan Brown, who's still there, Grieg, Sokolov, Shalapik. Defensively, they're looking quite solid too with Jake Sanderson, Thompson, Bernard Darker, Tyconic. And in terms of goaltending, Descartes, Zugard, Manalisi, so it's not looking too bad. I think a lot of that is forward group. The defense also in the big guys looks pretty great too. But I think Ottawa is definitely number 2. They do have an argument for number 1 as well, so if you have number 1, I don't really have too much of a problem with that. There is one team that I think is ahead of him, but really it's not too far of a gap. Both of these teams are fantastic, and the Sens' future is looking quite good too. Then going on to number 1. After the 2020 draft, in my opinion, the best prospect pool in the National Hockey League, I have the LA Kings. I'm just going to list off the forwards who I think can at least become 4th, 3rd line forwards at the very least in the NHL level. Give me a second. Quinton Byfield, Alex Turcotte, Gabriel Velarde, Ravis Kupari, Akil Thomas, Kasper Simontoval, Chromiak, Kalia, Vegamo, Anderson Dolan, Lafreniere, Grunstrom, Aiden Dudas. At least like 4th or 3rd line players. You're looking at all those guys. I think that's decent. I think that's pretty decent. In terms of the defensive core as well, that greatly improved with the 2020 draft. Mikey Anderson, Helge Grans, Brock Faber, Bjornfoot, Clegg, Spence, Jersey. All those guys I see as NHL players, but you got guys like Grans, guys like Bjornfoot, guys like maybe even Mikey Anderson, who I could see as potential top 4 D-man. The defense is still a little bit of weakness, and they still need that number 1 guy. They obviously would have liked to have a Jamie Drysdale as well, but that's still pretty fantastic, and you're looking at a lot of potential NHL D-man. In terms of the goaltending, you got still Cal Pedersen, and they do need to upgrade, I think, in goal for the future. But when you have that many forwards, who the heck cares? Quinton Byfield, first line center, one of the best players in NHL history. Do not at me. And hey, that's all that matters. But that'll be it for today, guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you're new and enjoyed the content. And of course, comment down below your thoughts on my rankings. What do you agree? What do you disagree with? Who do you see as the best and the worst prospect pool in the NHL? And again, I'm up for discussion. If you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. This is prospect pool rankings. It's your opinion, of course, as well. Make sure you share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card for all my 2020 NHL draft content right in one playlist. Great binge watch, I must say. Thanks so much for watching this video all the way to the end, though. Absolutely appreciate it, and I love you. Yes, you. I absolutely love you. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.